Drums have been getting processed with effects for pretty much as long as there were effects to put on them. But today, we're going to check out what we can get done with guitar stomp boxes, specifically delay, and reverb. A lot of drummers who are very vocal and show a lot of their stuff on the internet have been using stomp boxes recently, but this goes back further than that. Stanton Moore was the first one that I ever saw using effects and loopers and stuff, both live, in the studio, and in rehearsal spaces for writing purposes. These days, I've gotten really excited by Aaron Sterling's sample packs and also things that Dan Mayo's doing on there that really add something to the sound of acoustic drums while still allowing us to play in a natural way. Now, granted, a lot of this stuff is available in plugins and in Pro Tools and all sorts of places like that, but what if we want to just dip our foot in the water a little bit and see if this is for us? Let's skip ahead and just give a listen to some of the possibilities going on with the effects we're using today. What we're using today for a signal chain is a Shure SM57, pretty standard instrument mic, going directly into a Keeley Caverns combination delay reverb pedal, which is then going into a small DI, passive DI, and then into our recording software here. What this means for us is that the only thing that we have available for us to adjust, the only thing that we need to worry about, is the effects pedal itself. This particular unit houses both delay and reverb and is meant to be used in conjunction. It's a really fun pedal and also not particularly expensive, which is important if it's a thing you're checking out for the first time. If you haven't already, please take a second to follow the link to our Patreon below. We're going to have all the demos we did from today, including some that are not in the episode, over on the Patreon. There's a lot of great stuff over there. It's the best way to help us continue to do this, so follow the link and check it out. We just heard a little bit of the delay side of the pedal. Now let's hear the reverb side on its own. We're going to combine both of these effects a little bit later in some demos, but now let's talk about some use case scenarios for why this is the choice you would make. First and foremost, there's very little to go wrong with a single guitar pedal and a single microphone, whether you're recording, playing live, rehearsing, or just experimenting at home. Granted, a lot of us have computers with recording software in them. Plugins exist. If you already have that stuff, by all means, you can download some free plugins and see if this kind of thing is for you. But if you have a desktop computer or you don't want to involve a laptop in performance and rehearsal, this is a much more reliable, very inexpensive, and least likely to screw up on the job way of adding effects. It's also worth noting that using a dynamic microphone, which is what this is, as opposed to a condenser or some other kind of powered microphone, means that we are going to have a lot less trouble with other things going into the microphone, such as the ride cymbal or the kick drum. There's a tiny bit of bleed because it is a microphone after all, but given how hard we hit snare drums most of the time and the proximity of the mic to the drum, we really don't have to sweat that too much. Obviously, visually, you can see we're only putting this on the snare drum and intentionally trying to only capture that. However, you can do this to any part of the drum set. I have definitely seen people take a similar microphone and just place it in the middle of the kit somewhere to kind of grab a little bit of everything, which is a really different experience, equally fun. Gotta try it. In terms of exactly how we're capturing these sounds today, we're running our standard snare mic that's clipped on, which is unaffected, and then we are affecting the SM57 through the pedal, and these are being recorded in parallel, though it's not technically parallel processing because it is two different signal chains being recorded separately. But what this does mean for us is that we're not stuck with the affected signal, and it also means that if we want to, we can drive the effect enormously with very little of the natural sound in the SM57 and still have the clean sound the whole time as well. This means that we can also mix and match in our recording when we want the reverb and delay to show up. Now, having said that, we could also do this in real time. It adds an instrument to the playing, but it's definitely worth the challenge. As an aside, I also want to mention that I like to use delay, even just in a pedal like this with headphones, as a practice tool because it can be interpreted as a real-time, always adjusting metronome if you set it to the tempo that you're playing or just play along with it as if it were a metronome. The goal being to try to bury the sound of the delay in your own playing, even as you move through fills and different things. And if you're really on lock with it, you actually won't hear the delay at all, provided it's in the subdivision you're playing. You can also interpret the tempo of the delay as a swung eighth note or some other division off of what you're playing to fill out the sound of the groove, which is frankly something I've heard in a lot of really great older electronic and downtempo records, where it almost sounds like they have two hi-hats or two snare drums, but the sound of the delay is really different than the drum and it adds another texture to the whole experience. Now let's take a moment and hear the reverb and the delay put together. I've intentionally shortened the delay and sped up how fast the repeats occur in this section to make it blend into the reverb a little bit and add more of a texture and less of a consistent tempo delay after each hit. As you can hear, there's a lot of possibilities just with these two effects, and for us in particular, as opposed to things like distortion or fuzz or other things like that, time-based effects like reverbs and delays have the most impact on the drum sound because after all, we're playing very staccato instruments across the board, so having things that take up more time and trail off give us a lot more of an impact than something that just sits on the original sound. Now, on the other hand, players like Brody Simpson use a tremendous amount of post-production in the recording software after recording normal, dry sounds that are less about delays and more about really changing the texture of the drums. Once you have them recorded, there's a whole world of possibilities there where you can sit and listen and turn knobs and consider just how much of a change you want to make, especially around really low-tuned and resonant drums that they themselves have some sustain built in already. To address just how much of an investment we're talking about in terms of just getting into this and starting to experiment. It goes without saying that a small, simple DI, such as the one we're using today, which costs about $40, and a single pedal like this is still a lot cheaper than investing in recording software or even having to get a computer if you don't have one already. So right out of the gate, we're already ahead of the game here. Additionally, we're not having to use a specialized microphone for this. Really, the only specialized thing in the signal chain is that the cable we're using from the microphone to the guitar pedal has XLR on one end, which is correct for the microphone, and a 1/4-inch TRS on the other end for the pedal. One of the virtues of our time with the internet is that getting used pedals that are fully functional but at a fraction of the retail cost is super duper easy, whether it's Reverb, Facebook Marketplace, anywhere online that you might find used gear. Additionally, if you have any guitar player friends, I know an awful lot of us do, Every guitar player friend of mine is not using all their pedals at any given time, so borrowing something to check it out and see if it's for you is always a great possibility. We do need to also mention that the signal coming from a drum into a guitar pedal is not going to hurt that pedal under any circumstances. You don't need to worry about that. But we do need to mention on the other end of things that the microphone you use, such as this one, it needs to not require phantom power, which an SM57 doesn't. If your snare mic does, you will need to get a different mic for this because pretty much all guitar pedals out there will not pass phantom power through them no matter what you do. We spend the vast majority of time here talking about how to make your drums sound cool acoustically. The fun thing about this that goes right in line with everything we love is that we're not changing what we're doing acoustically. We're just putting a little icing on top and giving ourselves a further option to check out just what these drums are capable of without doing anything invasive at all. The drum feels the same. There's nothing extra on top or inside of it. When I play, even with the headphones on, I can just check out and enjoy what's happening. And it feels like playing music for myself even more so than just drums on their own.